Chapter 15. Bao was quiet until the end of the movie. The popcorn was gone, the soda was finished, and when the credits finished rolling, she said, "It looks like it takes as many people to make an animated movie as it does to build a starship. This was made several hundred years ago. That's why the ending sucks." Fauve replied, "I saw a lot of old movies in film class. There was a whole thing on where storytelling went wrong for entire companies. Anyway, now with modern AI work, it's easier than it used to be. There are AI coaches who guide the process of machine-made art. Teresa was explaining how her grandfather used them in his personal crusade against xenophobes." "How's that?" Bao asked. Her curiosity was clearly piqued, and I was curious to see how the pair of them would get along. In some ways, the two seemed kind of similar after all. Theoretically, they should get along if that is the case. But if they're too similar, then I expected their worst qualities would grate on each other's nerves. Since I'm sure this will come up, though it hadn't as of the time of this writing, yes, I did feel a little guilty treating Fauve's interaction with my half-sister as an experiment. But it was harmless, and I do have an obligation to my work that I can't ignore. You never know where the vital piece of information will come from that will unlock the mystery of an alien species. Mr. Barnum apparently believed that. She paused, cleared her throat, and did her best Percival impression. All you have to do to make those types into a villain in a story is the same thing you'd do if you wanted one in the real world. Take one of them and give them power. Fauve cleared her throat again and reverted to her normal voice. He sponsored a bunch of cartoons and comics and movies to make them into either laughingstocks or scumbags so that nobody grows up wanting to be like them. Teresa said it made him a lot of money, but he never enjoyed a credit of it. "So, stories are that powerful to humans?" Bao asked, and I watched the light bulb go on in my sister's eyes. "Oh yeah, they're a huge deal for us." Fauve nodded rapidly. "So, is that true of real stories too, or just fake ones?" Bao asked, and I picked up on what she intended. "Real ones too, if they're good and you don't mind bending the facts a little here and there. I was talking to Teresa just the other day about making a series about Captain Bonnie's life story. She liked the idea, but when I talked to Bonnie about it, she said she needed to go see Captain Archer and get his permission first." Fauve's lips puffed a little in a pout. "I hate waiting. Human children are very impatient by nature, even ones like Fauve who could be canny, clever, and insightful. They're full of energy and haste." Fauve, I could see, was so eager to grow up, to be an adult human and explore the world the way she wanted. I couldn't help but feel privileged to watch her get older, even if I hadn't known her that long. "Your drone thing, it lets you record things, right?" Bao asked. Her tail started to wag like somebody had a ball cocked and ready to throw. "Sure thing, unlimited plan with cloud storage. Why, you want me to record something for you?" Fauve asked, and Bao's tail moved back and forth fast enough that I wondered how she wasn't hovering above the floor. "Yes, please." "Thank you," Bao answered. "Sure thing. If I can't go?" She looked at her parents, then Bosun and Byron, as if they might support her desires, and all the adults shook their heads in denial. "Then I don't mind being your camera woman. Whatever you need, I'm happy to help. After all, you're Bailey's sister." Fauve said it so offhandedly that she took it for granted that she'd be willing to offer Bao her help. Bao, however, did not. "I'll be in your debt," Bao said with her tongue dangling out with sudden enthusiasm, and both Bosun and I became tense. For humans, this is a very casual expression. They trade in little favors all the time. But Bao is not a human. Debts for us are not small. They obligate us to broad actions when spoken aloud. When we come of age, ready to perform our duty to the state, with whatever our chosen field of study is, our oath is, in the human tongue, "I repay my debt of life, with my life." And to say treason in Encanti is to say, they have forgotten their debts. I knew Fauve and the other humans didn't understand what my sister had just done, but I did. Bosun did, and I was sure my sister knew exactly what she was saying. It was enough to force me to question just what we were going to see out there tomorrow, and if there hadn't been people's lives involved, I might have listened to my inner coward and stayed home instead. Chapter 16. "I'll mind the door for the first shift," Bosun said as we cleared up the mess that was movie night. Social sharing activities said a great deal about humans. Food, noise, entertainment in common. These small rituals meant a great deal to them, and it was telling that they were so readily willing to allow my sister to participate. Not because they'd opened up to her quickly, because they hadn't, but rather Bao being allowed to stay on the couch for the night, to eat their food and drink their soda, was because Bao was connected to me. In human society, love, affection, and care are subject to the transitive property of affection. It works in this way. The Walker family welcomed me because Professor Sheelith was family to their patriarch and matriarch, but I in turn had become beloved of the Walker branch with whom I now lived. Bao is connected to me as my half-sister. Because they love me, they are willing to extend the same comfort and security and good treatment I receive toward her. If A and B are bound together by bonds of familiar affection, and B then bonds with C as a mate, a dear friend, a rescuer, then A will treat C with the same welcoming heart that they would give toward B. If C then bonds with D, say by adopting D, then a chain of affection and support may be extended further, where A and B will both assist D, simply because C asks B and B asks A. This web of affection may vary in strength, and over subsequent years of observation I will say it seems to be limited to 5 or 6 layers, but it is strongly dependent upon the general strength of the individual bonds and how those bonds are regarded after they are made. I must also add that this bond is not limitless. If C mistreats B, then A will no longer treat C as well. If anything, A will attempt to remove B from C's grasp. In short, if Bao mistreated Fove, Bao would be out on the street, sister of mine or not. Now, all that being understood, I have to include the notation that this seems to be the case purely with healthy family structures. However, it is such a truism that one can detect a malfunctional family unit within minutes just based on tertiary treatment of people connected to the primary party. For example, if Fove should someday choose a partner for herself, William and Rebecca would welcome that person into their family. An unhealthy or toxic familial bond would do the opposite. They would either attempt to steal the affection of the potential partner, drive the partner away, maltreat the partner, or otherwise isolate the one who is within their circle. Their affection is limited to what they can control, and while this may not be uniformly true, in my years of study that followed this night, suffice it to say, it happens. I suppose I was lucky, as I know from their history and at least one very close encounter, that not all humans are good. I left the room as we all bade good night, though I swore I could hear my sister whine a little, when Rebecca provided her with a blanket and a pillow to use on the couch. Dlamius is not a kind world, I suppose, and despite having come to Earth, Bao was still new. The idea of an extra thought going to a desperate stranger's comfort in an equally strange place was still new for her. It may seem strange, but as I laid down on my bed in my little room to type up my notes for the night, I envied my sister. You might wonder why I did, but I still think back to that shameless, good-hearted offer of a sandwich, the casual kindness that so rocked me to my core. Dlamison society is such that we are all very private, very insular about ourselves. Being shaken free of that was a moment I will never forget. Bao had clearly bonded with humans, but desperate ones with no time for casualness as I knew it. And even if they were as generous of spirit and principle, if they really were living on the edge and in serious danger, then their interactions with her would at least have the veneer of transactional support, something she knew and could adapt to. Being given a place to sleep, food to eat, something to drink, and little creature comforts for no other reason than that she would have been on the street without it. To those who read this volume, I can only say this. If you live among humans, they will change you. You may go to them as Maxiki or Dlamisa or Haganai or anything else. But when you leave, if you leave, you will leave as something else. You will leave with a piece of humanity in you that you will want to nurture and want to spread to the rest of your species. Of course, you may rightly say, you are Dlamisa. By stroke of luck or some other unknown cause, you co-evolved planets apart in a natural ability to bond. And you would be right. But Professor Sixlith spent 50 years trying to get back and stayed in touch with the Walkers for all that time. He is not Dlamisa. Blorup and Kawik are not Dlamisa. The former is essentially a sentient ooze, and Kawik is a bird of prey. None of the three are from the most social species. Yet look at them. As of the publication of this volume in the public domain, Kawik Walker is a godfather to 4 human children and the adoptive parent to 1. Blorup has renewed his visa to remain on Earth and adamantly refuses to go to his homeworld. He delivers all his lectures via remote transmission, and as of the 4th edition of this volume, Professor Sixlith is buried on Earth. His planting was attended by generations of the Walker bloodline. Some predators feast on flesh and blood, but humans feast on something else, your hearts. Chapter 17. In the morning it was the smell of coffee, bacon, eggs, and pancakes that woke us up. Aye, good morning to you, laddie. Bonnie Red raised her coffee cup to me and wagged her tail. You be ready to go a-venturin' for fortune and glory? She asked. Her tail was already wagging, and I had a coffee cup waiting for me in my spot at the table. I didn't answer right away, chiefly because Fove was dressed in a very strange getup, which included a pair of fake pistols, an automatic rifle on her back, tan cargo pants, and a round brown hat, along with a leather bandolier over a wick-away shirt and a tactical gear vest that probably belonged to her father. "Why?" I started to ask, and she quickly downed half her cup of coffee and interrupted. "I may not be going in person, but I'm going by drone and so I can still look the part. Let a girl have a little fun. There's not much left in this world to explore after all," she said, and then picked up her fork when her father put her plate down in front of her. Michael seemed to enjoy that sentiment. That or he was laughing because he was trying to climb Bonnie Red's fur again. But that begged the question. "When did you get back?" I asked her, noticing that Fauve had a triumphant and slightly smug smile on her face when I turned my attention to our resident pirate. She closed her eyes for a moment while she activated her translator. "About an hour ago. Remember, scouts are modded with reduced sleep needs. I won't actually have to rest for 2 or 3 days." "Lucky." Fauve groused a little. "I could get so much more done if I didn't need to sleep." "That would be the ultimate useful superpower, or close to it. Top 10 at least." William agreed. "Not super strength?" Byron asked. Then he and Bosun flexed their genetically enhanced muscles at the same time. "No. Then, you'll either always be worried about hurting somebody, or you're going to be constantly asked by everybody else to help them move," William pointed out. "Super speed?" Bonnie asked. "Endless faster than a speeding bullet jokes from your friends, and how often are you really that eager to get anywhere?" Rebecca pointed out. "Time travel?" Bosun asked. "You get older and older while traveling around, so whenever you got back to your normal life, you'd be out-aging everybody. Before you know it, you're old as dirt and your friends are all still young," Fauve pointed out. "Flight?" Byron suggested. "People would always be asking for rides, you'd smash into birds, and what if you become the bug by hitting a hover bus? And that's without the asses with paintball guns who are just jealous," Fauve retorted. "Immortality," I proposed. "So you want to float around in the vacuum of space after the planet is destroyed, when the sun goes nova?" Fauve shook her head. "No thanks." "Read minds?" Byron suggested, and thrust his finger in the air as if he'd come up with something perfect. "I have the internet. I've seen what people think. I know about Rule 34. I'm 14, not stupid. I do not want to read the minds of grown-ups." Fauve let out a thoroughly exaggerated shudder. As all this was going on and everybody was eating, Bao was staring down at her plate and looking from person to person. Her plate was empty. She'd not only eaten it all, she'd licked it clean. But she was utterly mystified. She leaned toward me and asked, Are they always like this?" She asked it in our language at a pitch my humans couldn't hear. "Only when they're awake." I replied in the same fashion, and let my tail wag contentedly, while the walkers turned every single possible superpower into a kind of nightmare or inconvenience that far outweighed its benefits. They even made teleportation bad, pointing out that you were essentially killing yourself with every jump, and best case scenario, eventually you end up teleporting into someone or something, and have a lot of explaining to do even if you survive. Bao did her best to take this in stride, and when it was finally generally agreed upon that yes, never needing to sleep was in fact one of the most useful superpowers you could have, she asked, "When do we leave?" "I'm ready now. I'll just grab a first aid kit and make sure my datapad is ready to record everything I'll need to know to give to the embassy. I should probably arrange for a Terran representative to be there too, but odds are they'll be there anyway. It seems like every time the ambassador reaches out to me for more information about the Ballyball League, the Earth representative is in the background." "Is that what your message before was all about?" William asked. He has a very expressive face, even for a human, and I could see the youthful excitement there in the way his eyes lit up. "Yes. They submitted a list of athletes, scouts, and soldiers for heavy and light classes. Per your suggestion, I requested people from different areas of Delamius. I'm sending approval for a selection today, but I'll hold off on that until I've got some data on what's happening in the ruins." My sister was clearly about to speak, but before she could, Bonnie said something unexpected. "Belay that for about an hour. I'm having my ship's medical officer join us, but he'll need permission to use one of our shuttles here on Earth. Their paper pushers are slower than ours, so it's taking him a little longer. He hasn't had occasion to treat humans in decades, but he's better than nothing, and can at least help with the basics of some supply needs." Bao looked toward the hardy Dlamison former scout. I could smell the doubt on her. "Why would you do that? They're not your humans. I haven't promised you anything." Bonnie switched off her translator and said, "Lass, when them humans came in blasting the Zenti to Davy Jones's locker, they knew nothing but that we was given full cannon to go down fightin'. We weren't their Dlamazons, we weren't theirs at all. They came in anyhow, and on account of them I got me ship fixed, me crew is alive, and I'm still sailin'. You savvy? If an archer were here, he'd help him, and he'd be right disappointed if I didn't. So I don't need your doubloons. Just take us where we gotta go, and let's see what can be done, aye? She switched her translator back on again, looked around the table, gave a very self-satisfied nod as Michael hauled himself up into her lap at last. With a little help from her. Then she said, "Some things just come out better in pirate."